Disclaimer: this video discusses some sensitive subjects. I do not endorse or support any of the actions shown. This is purely for documentary purposes. Thank you. Family vlogging is an inherently weird phenomenon. On the surface, it looks harmless enough. Mothers and fathers showing off their lifestyle with their kids for everyone to see. What could be more harmless than family? But what's often lost in translation is that kids are not supposed to be famous. They're not meant to have millions of followers before they're even old enough to drive. And they're definitely not meant to have pivotal moments of their development broadcasted to strangers online. With a format so inherently unethical, it's not a shock that moments in front of the camera are often only a fraction as bad as what happens when no one is watching. Today, we're discussing the most disturbing family vlog channels, starting with Ruby Franke, a mother who believed that her children were possessed by demons. In 2013, mother of 6 Ruby Franke created the YouTube channel 8 Passengers to document her family's life, which was pretty eventful at the time. One of her sons was about to turn 18 years old, while Ruby was about to have her 6th child, who appeared in one of her videos straight out of the womb. Partly due to the unusual amount of kids she had, her channel didn't take long to amass a sizable viewership, peaking at over 40 million views a month. To put it simply, Ruby was at the absolute top of her genre, all from simply recording her enjoying her family life. But of course, this had to go wrong somehow. Fans of the content started picking up on some red flags. For example, sometimes after the kids clearly asked Ruby not to film them, she ignored their requests and continued anyway.
No. Okay, so
can you not film it?
Although she is their mother, viewers felt it was a violation of their privacy to record them against their will. It became even more questionable when you factor in that it's been widely claimed that her comment sections were full of creeps posting suggestive timestamps for other creeps to then click. This isn't a unique thing for the 8 Passengers channel. In fact, it's a phenomenon that's been widely documented across YouTube. Obviously, these comments are not her fault, and it's impossible to know if she was carrying out any efforts to try and suppress or delete them, so Ruby can't be blamed for this directly. What she can be blamed for, however, is the way she treated her kids. Beyond just recording them when they were clearly uncomfortable with it, in 2019, something happened that crossed the line for a lot of people. Her youngest kid, who was just 5 at the time, forgot to pack her lunch, and this is how Ruby dealt with it.
Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children. I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
Many people pointed out that one of the most common forms of mistreatment is withholding food or using the threat of withholding food as a means of punishment. And this seemed to be a somewhat consistent pattern for Ruby in general.
I'm only gonna say it one more time, and then you're gonna lose the privilege to eat dinner.
Consequently, people dug up other questionable parenting techniques, like making her kids do push-ups as punishment. At one point, Ruby's eldest son, Chad, was sent to a boot camp called Anasazi, which allowed no electronics whatsoever. But why was he sent there? Well, I'll let her explain it.
It's an accumulation of things over years, well before we ever started YouTubing or well before we ever got into social media. And it's reached a point where Chad needs to develop some very basic maturity and skills that he's going to need as an adult. And
this is a chance for like a reset, like a start over, like a do-over, like a fresh beginning.
Yeah.
If you're confused, I think that's probably the point. It seems like their goal was to be as vague as possible about it, to avoid giving the audience something that they could judge not worthy of being sent to the wilderness.
It reminds me of those, remember that video I did about the VTuber who got like kidnapped? And one of the rats was that she was sent to one of these schools where they don't allow electronics. But it was like these super strict schools where the kids were almost like getting tortured.
After Chad spent over 2 months there, the family reunited in an emotional vlog. But of course, staying in the wilderness for a while doesn't fix or change who you are. He was probably just out there making fires and hunting squirrels, waiting for the moment he could go back to cranking 90s in Fortnite, or whatever it was he did that got his mom so mad that she sent him to Ted Kaczynski therapy. After Chad came back, it didn't take long for him to get in trouble again. This time, time for tricking his younger brother into packing for Disneyland, when in reality, they weren't going anywhere. There's a wide spectrum of older brother antics, ranging from Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid all the way to Cain from the Bible. And although this is a pretty mean prank to pull on your brother, it's nothing that serious. Ruby, however, felt differently, and the punishment she dished out was taking away Chad's bed privileges for 7 months. Yeah, you heard that right.
What?
Bed privileges.
What
It's
does that
honestly
mean?
impressive how creative
Wait, what does a bed privilege mean? That like you can't sleep in your bed?
this woman is with her punishments.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. And they gave my
What?
beanbag like 2 weeks ago.
This situation, along with many other minor instances of similar behavior, set an entire community on TikTok ablaze, as they collected and shared every bit of evidence of Ruby Franke's abusive behavior.
That's kind of messed up. He slept on a beanbag? That's so bad for his back, though.
On the platform, and it was getting a lot of traction. Videos surfaced of her threatening her kids with severe punishments, including threatening to behead a stuffed animal belonging to one of her very young daughters. All of this negative press was starting to look very bad for a squeaky
Jeez.
clean, family-friendly vlog channel like 8 Passengers. Ruby became nervous that her business
Dude, imagine you grow up and you have all this shit on you on the internet that you're never gonna be able to take away. But you didn't know back then the consequences of it. So you're just stuck with this. Like back then, back in my time, we didn't know the consequences of internet. Because social media had kind of just started and all of that. But now, you're more than aware of it and you still chose to do it. This is like every background story for some serial killer movie.
was going to suffer from the controversy. So once it got to a point where she could no longer afford to ignore it, the family did an interview with Business Insider to try and clear the air. They claimed that Child Protective Services had actually visited them over the complaints from social media. But when they got there, they found Ruby baking with her daughter and the rest of the home in perfect order. While leading with this anecdote, Ruby's strategy to dealing with people's accusations was to simply ignore all of it, refusing to accept that she may have committed a single mistake in her treatment of her kids. Anyone saying otherwise was simply regarded as a disingenuous hater. It was just so malicious, she said. They knew what they were doing was out of context. They were purely seeking to throw hate. That was their only objective. Unsurprisingly, this interview did very little to curb the allegations. And with her reputation severely damaged, she slowed down her upload schedule, and this case briefly lost a lot of its steam. That is, until mid-2020, when Ruby partnered with Jody Hildebrand, who used to be the family's therapist. They started a new project that apparently aimed to be a support group for mothers, giving them advice and helping them, quote, treat those lost in the darkness of a distortion. People who saw this were naturally confused as to what this was even supposed to mean and why the 8 Passengers brand had taken such a hard turn into some kind of weird parenting advice and therapy brand. Within months of this partnership with Jody, Ruby's entire life was turned upside down, completely reorganized around this new project, titled Connections, which people appropriately pointed out sounded a lot like a cult. Ruby's online presence was renamed to Moms of Truth and completely rebranded to promote this new project.
Let me tell you the truth. This world where there are gangs and there is distortion and there is lust and there are people who want to hurt others, that's not the real world. That is the delusional world. And we have so many people living in the delusional world and so few people living in the truth that it looks like the distorted world is the real world. It looks that way. And the few people who are living in truth, they look like Looney Tunes.
You know, initially, you could assume that Ruby
That's
had at
weird.
least learned a little bit from her previous controversy, as she began sharing a lot less about her personal life. Unfortunately, it turns out that this wasn't the result of Ruby suddenly having an epiphany and discovering that exposing her family constantly wasn't good for them. This was Ruby keeping her increasingly erratic and bizarre behavior off camera, so that she wouldn't get in trouble for it. In 2022, Jody moved in with Ruby, and according to the kids' testimonies, Jody slowly brainwashed Ruby into becoming more and more vile. She even pitted her against her husband, Kevin, who was forced to abide by the insane requirements just—
Why would you invite another grown-ass woman to move into your family house? You already have a family living there. Can she get her own place?
So he could still see the kids. Of course, this was just a tactic with the intention of pushing Kevin out of their life, so they could do whatever they wanted to the kids with no pushback. Ruby began leaving them at the house without supervision for several days at a time. She covered the windows with newspapers so no one could see what was going on inside, and she forced them to perform physical labor, sometimes having them work outside for hours without food and water in over 100-degree weather. The kids were being isolated and malnourished, and being fed the bare minimum to keep them alive. Before this moment, some could argue that even if Ruby was a bad mom, she wasn't necessarily abusive. But now, there was simply no denying it. In May of 2023, Ruby and Jody relocated the family to Jody's house in Ivins, Utah, which no one, including her
Bro, how many garage doors do you need?
own husband Kevin had any knowledge of. From there, the mistreatment continued until the 30th of August, when Russell, the second youngest, managed to escape the house via an open window, running to one of the neighbors to beg for food and water. The neighbor immediately noticed that Russell had tape around his ankles, looked emaciated, and had open wounds. So he called the police.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house.
Okay, this got so dark. There's like actual crimes going on.
He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
Is your door locked?
No, I'm sitting outside with him on the front patio.
Once the police got there, they discovered the horrific living conditions the kids were in, prompting Child Protective Services to immediately take them away. They also promptly arrested the two women, who were immediately charged for their crimes. Following Ruby's arrest, her own sisters took to Instagram saying that it needed to happen. Meanwhile, one of her daughters, Sherry, also posted celebrating her own mother's arrest. She had already moved out long before the court case, and previously had tried to alert the police to her mother's antics, calling a wellness check on the family when she had heard that her siblings had been left in the house by themselves for 5 days. But unfortunately, nothing came of it. About a week after she was arrested, the 8 Passengers channel was banned from YouTube, and the rest of the related online presence was slowly shut down as other social media companies became aware of the issue. During the trial itself—
That is a horror story. Holy shit. Oh, you guys heard about this story?
Ruby went—
So that happened in mid-2020? That's kind of old. I mean, there's been so many YouTube degenerate parents that I might be mixing up the stories, but wow.
Out of her way to make herself out to be even more condemnable, accusing her own son, Russell, of violating his sisters, claiming he had admitted it to her. Of course, there was no proof of this, and this is undoubtedly something she fabricated during the trial to distract them from her own misdeeds. What they did have proof of was Ruby referring to her kids as the spawn of Satan. This phrase came from her diary, in which she admitted to refusing to feed—
I will not feed a demon, Frank wrote in an entry in July 2023 about her son, whom she calls a compulsive liar with a cold, dead heart. Frank wrote about shaving the boy's head as punishment for refusing to perform wall sits and pushing him into the pool while covering his mouth and nose. Big day for evil, she wrote at the time. Frankie also details how she punished her manipulative daughter, including making her stand in the rain for hours and dousing her in dog wash water after she complained about not eating for days. Imagine thinking a child is manipulative. That's disgusting.
The, quote, demons, shaving her son's head as a punishment, making her daughter stand in the rain for hours, and dousing her with water they used to wash the dog. All of this was in an effort to break the deal with the devil she believed they had made. In the end, Ruby took a deal, pleading guilty to 4 counts to prevent herself from being convicted of 6 and being sentenced to up to 30 years in prison. Thanks to her pleading down, this means she'll be free in a year or 2. And you really gotta wonder if she abandoned her delusions while in prison, or if she's only gotten more insane and still thinks she did the right thing. The story of 8 Passengers is one where the most insidious behavior was ultimately occurring away from the camera. This is not the case with Mike Martin. DaddyOFive was a YouTube channel run by Mike and Heather Martin, a couple hailing from Baltimore, Maryland. They came to prominence in early 2017 for videos depicting what the parents called pranks on on their 5 children: Jake, Ryan, Emma, Cody, and Alex. Partly, the attention
Okay, so he's gonna do like a compilation of all the YouTube worst parents.
got came from just how bizarre the videos were, even by family channel standards. Dad's strange addiction exposed. Dad punches kid in the face.
The
Hey,
fuck?
this looks like that one album. Cody holds Alex at gunpoint. Is Jake gay? Among many other absolutely deranged uploads. Prime DaddyOFive content was like a Lifetime TV show from hell, and it really sold the Martin family's household as this Guy Fieri Mountain Dew themed torture chamber. However, that was just the superficial appearance of the channel, as beyond the clickbaity titles and thumbnails, it was clear that a lot of the content was exaggerated, and outside of content creation, the Martins were a decently normal family. That
Okay.
is, until you paid attention to how Mike treated 2 of his kids,
Uh-oh.
Cody and Emma. You see, Cody and Emma aren't Heather Martin's kids. Instead, they come from Mike's ex-wife, Rose Hall. Coincidentally, they seem to be the main targets of the channel's pranks, and they were targeted much more aggressively than Mike's other kids. Dad burns Cody's Pokemon cards had well over 1 million views. Dad destroys son's DS. Cody ruins a giant family surprise. Cody gets the belt. I'm sending Cody to military school.
Using Cody for target practice.
You get the point. I know that YouTube back then was a different time, but I'm honestly shocked this channel was even able to operate for as long as it did with those titles in mind. In one particular case, Heather doused Cody's bedroom floor in ink, and then started yelling at him, accusing him of being the culprit, until he started desperately crying and turning red, only for Heather to reveal it was all just a prank.
Dude, that's like mental torture, by the way. That's fucked up.
Do you know how much that's gonna cost to clean?
We got you, boo.
They were.
You were innocent bystander.
Yeah. You
That's
just got
terrible.
owned. It's just a
Dude, they look so sad.
prank, bruh.
Other supposedly fun
No.
pranks included Mike pushing Cody into a bookshelf and having Ryan, one of the older sons, slap Emma in the face whenever she failed to do a bottle flip challenge, which resulted in her crying and being in visible pain. While the mistreatment was more hands-on when it came to Cody, Mike tended to outsource Emma's mistreatment to Ryan or his other kids, turning them against one another and, in a somewhat sadistic manner, documenting the aftermath for entertainment. I will concede that plenty of the videos played out like they had been scripted beforehand, but even if any of this stuff was agreed on before filming, you gotta remember that these are kids, so them agreeing doesn't really mean anything. They aren't eligible to consent to being yelled at and terrorized on camera for content. On top of that, you'd have to look really hard to find any kid who can act well enough to look so believably traumatized and hurt as Cody does in these videos.
Look at me. Say, I'm the best dad ever.
You're the best dad ever.
I know, but you still can't have your games, Cody. You don't have to try to flatter me.
Play with my friend.
The invisible ink prank in particular drew a lot of hatred from the broader internet.
That's not
and
even
so,
funny.
In response, Mike created a new video wherein, to disprove the allegations that he was a terrible father, he asked his kids if they had been traumatized.
Apparently, it's upsetting a lot of people.
Oh my god, it reminds me of the dog abuse girl who like grabbed her dog as a tee up and she was like, tell them you're fine, tell them you're fine.
Video, I mean,
It's just a prank, bro. Was anybody traumatized?
No. Well, I don't even know what that word means, but yes, no, I was, Mom. I was.
No, I wasn't.
Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
I don't mean to make light of this situation because this is honestly pretty dark, but the idea of someone abusing their kids on camera, being called out for it, and then sticking the same camera into the same kid's face and asking them, "Are you traumatized?" is so nonsensical, it should be a Smiling Friends bit or something. Instead, it's just real life. While there were plenty of people on Reddit and other platforms commenting on how low and terrible DaddyOFive's content was, it wasn't until Philip DeFranco made a video about it that the ball really got rolling.
If we look past the screaming and cursing at the kids, there's also the physical element. Not just between some of the kids, which people would say, oh, you know, that's just families. In a video they called Tablet Destruction Prank, at one point the dad pushes Cody. That sends him face first into a bookshelf. And we see later in the video his pillow is covered with blood.
Phil is one of the oldest news channels on YouTube, and at the time, he had a lot of sway in what was being talked about by the commentary community at large. So him putting a spotlight on the issue
He's like an OG YouTuber.
really drew a lot more eyes to it. In his video, he shows that Mike's response didn't do a very good job of dispelling the criticism. So, Mike had tried to plug a hole in his ship with a new written apology. We have had a family meeting and reviewed many comments and concerns. We discussed different alternatives for our future videos and ways we can improve. We deeply apologize for your feelings of concern. We do not condone these alleged crimes in any way, shape, or form. As many of our friends and family would tell you, we are a loving, close-knit family and all enjoy making YouTube videos and having fun together. You can immediately pick up on this non-apology by the way it's phrased. We deeply apologize for your feelings of concern. At no point is there any admission of wrongdoing, despite the dozens upon dozens of terrible clips of Mike. People were mad, and rightfully so this topic just kept getting bigger and bigger. So naturally, Mike and his wife went to the one place where everyone went to sort out their grievances at that time: Drama Alert. For the unfamiliar, Drama Alert was a YouTube news show.
Oh, that's Keemstar. Yeah.
Keemstar. And he's managed to be involved in almost every single YouTube drama that has taken place over the last 15 years or so. During this interview, Mike and Heather did...
Why has his style like never evolved? He's still stuck in that era.
Successfully convinced Keemstar of their immediate innocence. They argued that their videos were mostly staged, and in actuality, the kids were all having fun the entire time.
Are these videos 100% real? I mean, is it 100% real, or are you guys putting on a show like McJuggernuggets or Kid Behind the Camera?
They are a little exaggerated.
I mean, this was their idea to start with, so when the camera comes on, they go with it. And sometimes they'll tell us afterwards, we really didn't buy that, we knew all along. And then other times they're really pranked. I mean, it just, we never know what we're going to get.
But just one day later, Keemstar completely switched his position on the controversy, explaining to people what changed his mind.
But when I saw the clip today where the dad was having them do the bottle flip, and if you didn't flip the bottle, you got slapped in the face, and the brother slapped the girl, you can't justify that no matter what.
Mike became desperate and started doing whatever he could to try and pick up the pieces, including a very rushed attempt at an apology.
We just did an interview with Drama Alert. In the video, he asked me if the videos were real. I tiptoed around it because I was scared. But now I don't care anymore. Videos are fake. They're fake. Right now we are under severe attack by this Franco guy. Made a video about us, just steamrolling us. He never contacted me or anything. He never asked me if anything was real. He never tried to interview me. He never researched nothing. He watched a few videos and boom.
And because of that,
it's always their excuse, isn't it? We've heard that every single time. Every single time. It's always what they say. You never contacted me. They didn't do their research.
Video, we now have real danger coming our way.
This guy put us in huge danger. He put my kids and family in huge danger over fake videos.
I don't know how this looks to you guys, but to me, it seems like really terrible acting. As I said before, although he's not outright lying that most of the videos are to some degree staged, it doesn't really exonerate him, since even if the videos are fake, the effects they have on the kids are real. To top it off, and to earn him even more negative attention, he's clearly blaming Philip DeFranco for reporting on it, as if Phil had somehow lied or doctored footage to incriminate him and didn't just show his audience the content exactly as it had been originally presented. When he realized how bad this made him look, he took the entire video down. And a little while later, the couple made a second, much more polished video, probably under the guidance of some PR company, to try and redeem their brand. It's better than the other apology for sure, but it still didn't do anything to change their fate.
Bro, the outfit change so they look more wholesome is so funny to me.
Was extensively picked up by a bunch of major outlets. It was covered by Nerd City, who probably did the most comprehensive video on the DaddyOFive channel, and there was simply no excuse about these events being staged that came close to justifying them. By early May of 2017, Mike had already lost custody of Cody and Emma to their biological mother, which was a big enough development that it was covered by conventional news outlets like ABC. From that point onwards, the book had basically closed on the DaddyOFive story, as Mike's attempts to make new channels to continue making content, first as FamilyOFive, then as Martin Family and Martin Boys, all got immediately banned by YouTube. Additionally, the loss of custody came with a criminal conviction, which was met with a parole sentence that Mike was no longer to upload any videos including Emma or Cody. Technically, he may have broken this condition a few times in his attempts to restart his channels, but it seems that no legal punishment was ever given out. Actually, in 2019, he even had his sentence reduced. Still, even if it came to an end, at this point, there was no way for them to return to their former glory, if we can even use that word. However, there was one way around it. Their eldest son, Jake Martin. All the way back when the original DaddyOFive channel was still up, Jake already had his own channel with very similar videos, although over time, he began developing his content in different directions. Under the name Baby Dawn, he began posting edgy rap songs, which actually got a pretty positive reception from his audience. His next move was to try streaming on Kick, which also had some interesting results.
So when that BBC is just
Gaping your anus, it's like something about it, like it's rewarding.
In June of 2025, he even made a video with Cody and Emma as a sort of family reunion, which was received positively by his immediate audience. Because Jake was Mike's son, he didn't carry the same heat, so he was free to try and redeem the DaddyOFive style content without any of the baggage. He even used this small resurgence in relevance to try and clear his dad's name on live TV.
A lot of them were improvised, but the majority of them were scripted, yes.
But it looks like a lot of the emotions that came out were pretty genuine.
Some of the emotions could have been getting so far into improvising the videos, honestly, because it's happened to me. And when you're filming a 40-minute to an hour-long video and it's a bunch of siblings, I definitely think things would get hectic sometimes.
By making videos with Cody and Emma and publicly speaking out on behalf of his dad, Jake made some serious headway in convincing a lot of people that the videos weren't as bad as they had looked. And in photos of the family's reunion, it really seemed like everything was going well. Unfortunately for them, this narrative fell apart pretty quickly in late 2025 to early 2026 as a sequence of bizarre events took place in quick succession. First, Jake made a two-part video, the first half of which features him interviewing his brother, Alex. While this part is pretty benign, in the second half of the video, Jake begins making accusations about Cody. His reason for making these claims is supposedly that Cody had posted to his own Discord server saying that he still hates the Martins. This prompted Jake to say that during their meetup in the park that day, Cody inadvertently exposed himself to a number of children.
He whipped out his and pissed at a public playground next to a bunch of kids.
He then proceeds to detail Cody's general emotional instability during their reunion and says that Cody and Emma had only reached out to Mike after years of not contacting him because their child support finally ran out. Now, it's impossible to know how true any of this is, and to be totally honest, the details are less important than what this tells us about this family. Somehow, after years of not even being near each other, Jake and Cody are now once again fighting some surrogate war on behalf of their parents, with Jake taking his father's side. If it's true that Cody exposed himself in a public park, then he absolutely has issues. But then again, I have to wonder if his lack of boundaries and general social dysfunction has something to do with him being filmed against his will and mistreated on camera at such a young age. Whatever the case is, Jake's narrative began to completely disintegrate, as in late December 2025, he himself was arrested after being accused of assaulting someone during a neighborhood basketball game, which apparently put the other person in the hospital. The most recent video uploaded to Jake's channel, which is now privated, appeared to show a series of texts informing his audience of what happened and asking for money to help with his legal case. Clearly, there's no better way to prove that Mike had a terrible effect on his kids' lives than simply looking at how they're ending up. Even with the various claims they've made about each other, or Jake's current legal case, the fact that they see it as normal to air out family drama online for everyone to see is a clear sign of their development being stunted years ago. Mike Martin, meanwhile,
they've lived their entire life on the internet. Yeah, it turns out upbringing does matter. Shockers.
Still has a pretty active social media presence, using his TikTok account to promote his career making coworker music. As bad as Mike Martin and DaddyOFive were, at their peak, they had about 700,000 subscribers, a number that, while very big, pales in comparison to perhaps the most famous family on all of YouTube. When former college basketball player Austin McBroom and former model Catherine Pies began their relationship, they decided to start documenting their lives online, leading to the creation of the Ace Family channel in January of 2016. As the channel grew, it allowed their audience to look into moments as meaningful as the birth of their 3 kids, Ellie, Alea, and Steele McBroom. Due to how obscenely rich they became, this was basically YouTube's version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where people wanted to vicariously take part in this celebrity family and all of the drama that came with it.
All right, Ace Family, it is
like, I feel like we totally aren't into that, but there's probably a lot of young families that would look up to these people and relate to them, which is so fucking weird to me.
currently 8:21 p.m. October
I feel like I've heard of
15th.
them.
And we just got out of the shower. I literally just put some clothes on. Catherine, as you can tell, she just got out of the shower. She just threw some clothes on. As soon as she threw some clothes on, she was having some serious contractions.
Their first bits of controversy are mostly insignificant, such as Austin playing one-on-one against Chris Brown, a man you might know for his hit songs like Look at Me Now and These Hoes Ain't Loyal, and for viciously beating Rihanna 15 years ago.
That's what I was gonna say. It's wild that this guy still has a career, by the way. It was literally photos of her, like, face so beat up.
The one other controversy was just people on Twitter digging up old tweets of Austin where he's saying mean things about black women. While both of these were considered newsworthy at the time, ultimately they did very little to put a dent in the Ace family's sterling reputation. But things got a little harder to justify in 2019, when Austin bought a lollipop in the shape of a man's private parts for a toddler he was caring for. Apparently, this kid wasn't one of his daughters, but instead a relative of his wife's.
Keep that in the bag forever. Do not show that to anybody, okay? That's your little secret. Guys, I'm in so much trouble. But she said she's gonna steal it if I don't buy it, so better me buy it.
This really makes Austin seem extremely negligent, not just for buying it for this little kid, but also for taking her into a store that has that kind of merchandise in the first place. But instead of apologizing or even addressing the situation in any way, the Ace family just announced a temporary hiatus and came back later when they had signed with the Univision Creator Network. There were basically no long-term consequences for this controversy, but it did make people a bit more skeptical about the image Austin presented of himself as a well-meaning family man. This skepticism soon started focusing on the Ace family's charity events, and this is when things started to get a bit more serious. Basically, in his video announcing that they would be giving away $100,000, it was suggested that anyone who signed up had a chance to take part in the event and win.
Oh my god, isn't that like all these YouTubers did these money things back then? Wasn't that an issue with Rice Gum and Mr. Beast? It was like a trend back then.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Ace family is giving away $100,000. If you think you can do it, hit us up. If you think your favorite YouTuber or celebrity can do it, make sure you tag them. I also put the video on my Instagram, so make sure you tag them in the comments. Guys, it's a free 100K. You don't have to pay to enter.
But when the rubber met the road, it became clear that only other rich people and celebrities would be taking part, with names such as Jake Paul, Soulja Boy, Jacob Sartorius, and P. Diddy's son. As you can imagine, none of these people on the list are really going to benefit from $100,000, so it's really just something Austin was doing to get some clout online while pretending he was doing a giveaway. But it wasn't just his fans that he was basically finessing.
Basically a scam.
Even other people who wanted to work with him weren't safe from this kind of shifty business. Case in point, a designer named Urban was initially contacted by Austin for some kind of collaboration, and things seemed to be going well, until he asked Austin if they could take a picture together. The mood instantly changed, and Austin refused to take the photo, saying he only took, quote, professional pictures. Of course, this was a lie. What really happened is Austin only led this guy on with the idea they'd be partnering up in some kind of business venture so that he could get his hands on enough of this guy's work to be able to plagiarize or reproduce it without giving him money or credit. Once he got what he wanted, he didn't want to take a picture because it would establish that he had met this guy, and thus he couldn't use the excuse that he had never heard of him or seen his stuff before. By the looks of it, Austin had actually done this to a bunch of other designers as well, which definitely put a dent in his ability to do business. Another incident that was heavily scrutinized was the Ace family.
Bro, they're like the richest couple ever and they can't even hire a designer? That is the scummiest, raddest thing you can do. Well, not that you can do, but this is such. Oh my god, this greed is insane.
Family supposedly being victim to a home invasion in August of 2018. On the surface, it seems ridiculous to criticize someone for being the victim of a crime, but many began to speculate that this crime had never actually happened at all.
So do we have your permission to take the knife to get fingerprints off of it?
Yeah, of course.
Do we have permission to take the knife for to take fingerprints off of it? Does that sound like a quote from any police officer? Or does that sound like an actor who's trying to be like a police officer? There's just something off about it.
This particular situation is a bit odd because a real police report was eventually shared, so it's pretty unlikely that this was completely faked, which led some to theorize that although the break-in was real, they staged the aftermath to make a video out of it. Regardless of what the case is here, no matter how bad it was looking for Austin up until this point, it paled in comparison to his situation following October of 2019. Seemingly out of nowhere, a beauty vlogger named Cole Kerrigan made a video about Austin.
Dude, I thought this was the other beauty blogger that was caught with that controversy with like Jeffree Star and all these guys a few years ago.
First claim he makes was that Austin had been unfaithful to his wife, which, while bad, is not criminal. But the next claim was that Austin, his father, and multiple other men had assaulted a woman in her hotel room.
Yes, James Charles, thank you. Oh my god, what a name I had forgotten.
It was kind of weird that Catherine wasn't at Austin's birthday party.
Bro, how do they all look the same?
I thought it was weird that I saw him out at clubs multiple times without Catherine. That's none of my business, whatever. Not that big of a deal. So a few months ago, June 22nd to be exact, I was still living in the Team 10 house and I got a call from one of my good friends. She was hysterically crying. I've never heard anyone feel so distraught in my life. I was so scared, and she began to explain to me that she was in Miami with Austin McBroom and a bunch of other people, including his assistant, his dad, security guards, other girls. XYZ happened. I'll get into that. After they all had been drinking, my two friends went back to their room to go change because the sun was setting, and that's when Austin, the security guard, the father, and two other guys came into their room. Obviously, I don't have recordings of went down in the room, but my friend told me that she repeatedly said no multiple times, over and over and over, to the point where she started crying, begging them to stop. That's when they forced themselves in her, and I will insert the photos of the blood all over the bed sheets in the hotel room right here.
Ew.
On the exact same date, June 22nd. Now,
Jesus Christ.
After this had happened to them, obviously they're traumatized, so they hide out in their room for hours. This screenshot is going to be one of Austin McBroom's friends texting them 3 times within a 3-hour period on June 22nd, right after they raped her.
While the rumors of infidelity he echoes in the beginning.
Wait, I want to see those texts. Yo, what the fuck? This is crazy.
Right after they
she got gang rape. Yo, these people really think they can get away with anything. What up? Did you die? You're dead? No, I'm not. What are you doing? Getting ready? Cool. Did y'all get back? Yes. Okay. Trying to make sure you ain't late if you can. Why does she ask, what are you doing?
While the rumors of infidelity he echoes in the beginning here had already been swirling around for quite a while, it obviously pales in comparison to the accusation that Austin and multiple other men were guilty of a serious sex crime. Besides this, there were claims that Austin had multiple kids by multiple different women whom he refused to accept responsibility for, and there was a claim that he made most of his partners, consensual or otherwise, sign non-disclosure agreements and threatened them with lawsuits if they ever spoke out. Cole even adds that he spoke to Keemstar, who said he was going to report on this stuff, but ultimately it never happened because Austin supposedly paid Keem $500,000 to keep quiet. Keemstar publicly tweeted,
take the money and then talk about it anyway. There's no legal contract in the world that could keep you from not talking about a crime. I do like his nails too.
out a reply to these claims, complaining that his phone number was leaked and saying that the $500,000 thing was a joke Cole had taken out of context. I'll say right now that $500,000 is insane, and there's absolutely no way Austin paid Keemstar of all people that much money to not talk about this stuff. Eventually, one of the girls who Cole was speaking about decided to clarify things Cole apparently got wrong. In an Instagram post where she identified herself, Leslie Golden said, "To speak on this video that Cole Kerrigan posted, some of you have already figured out that I'm the other girl they're talking about in the video. I feel like this video was made for the wrong reasons, and this wasn't Cole's story to tell. Cole even texted me saying we could potentially get paid $100,000 from this, following the claim that Drama Alert was paid off $500K. I wasn't aware Amanda or Cole were in contact with Drama Alert to anonymously..."
Wait, was the story fake? Because this is some heavy accusations. Oh my god, is this a mega plot twist?
Run our story. But I was aware Cole's video was being made, and I only wanted it to be factual if it was ever going to be posted. I wanted to say that Austin McBroom is not to blame in this situation and did not me or anyone. This is not what I wanted. There's several sides to every story, and this isn't how I wanted to tell mine. Once again, this was met with speculation that Leslie too was being paid to not talk about whatever happened, but clearly at this point, this was reaching a point of baseless rumors and conspiracy theories. Thanks to Leslie sharing text messages that showed Cole apparently planning to use a version of her story to get $100,000, Keemstar was vindicated, but the story was still without a proper resolution. Eventually, Catherine herself started tweeting about it and making fun of all the claims, and suggesting that they're all fake. The only thing is, there was still a lingering accusation that one of Austin's good friends had viciously assaulted someone, and Austin's response seemed to implicitly admit to being unfaithful to his wife. This was pretty much confirmed in a video that came out later of Austin with another woman at some club. But again, there was absolutely no evidence that he had ever assaulted anyone or had children with other women. After Austin announced that he'd be taking legal action against the people slandering him, Cole's video was ultimately taken down. His mishandling of this story almost single-handedly buried the potential to expose Austin. But as the whole commotion died down, the people who were adamant about Austin's misdeeds continued to gather evidence. In a way, they're different from the other channels I've talked about today, because Austin and Catherine never outright hurt their kids, outside of the obvious paradigm of family vlogging being generally unethical. Ultimately, there are a lot of questions still unanswered about their time on YouTube as a whole, but given everything I've shown today, maybe some questions are better left unanswered. It's also for the best that the last family we're talking about is no longer allowed to operate on YouTube, although, fair warning, this is easily the most horrific out of all of them. Unlike everyone else on this list, Michelle Hobson's 7 children, ages ranging from 3 to 15, were all adopted. Due to the unusual nature of her household, her channel got a lot of attention during its run from 2012 to 2019, reaching over 350 million views and over 800,000 subscribers. But as early as 2017, the public was aware of a few huge red flags, signaling that something much darker was afoot behind the scenes. For reasons unknown, one of her children was seen running through the neighborhood without clothes on, which was reported to the police, who then forwarded the issue to the Department of Child Services. As it turns out, Michelle had complaints levied against her since before the creation of her YouTube channel. As far back as 2011, the first complaint claimed that Michelle would lock her foster kids in a room where they yelled and cried helplessly, and she refused to let them out. Following this first complaint, there were a number of accusations made over the next few years. One claim suggested that she forced one of her kids to stand in a corner for prolonged periods of time as punishment while she went to bed. Another claim was that she had her kids wearing ripped shoes that were 3 sizes too small. On January 31st of 2014, one of her kids ended up hospitalized in a mental ward after an incident at school, although we don't exactly know what went down. Later that year, another claim was made against Michelle to DCS. They claimed she didn't clean her kids, which led them to have feces on their skin, causing abrasions and infections. In 2015, someone alleged that she had thrown a can at one of her kids' heads, leaving a scar. In June that same year, it was claimed she gave one of them a black eye, several bruises, skin rashes, and that they were showing signs of starvation. In 2017, another—
Okay, literal crime though. What the fuck is wrong with people? That's gotta be like mental illness, right?
Claim was made, this one even more serious. They said that Michelle was locking children in a closet for 90% of the day, withholding food from them, and spraying them with mace as a form of punishment.
Oh my God!
With the sheer volume of claims being made against her over the years, you would think that a serious investigation would have taken place. Despite visiting Michelle's home a total of 9 times, they never managed to get anything definitive on her, and as a result, she was allowed to continue running her channel with no issues. For several years, Michelle flew right under the radar, completely unfettered, making videos prominently featuring the children she was actively hurting. The suffering wouldn't end until March of 2019, when one of Michelle's biological children, Michelle Hobson, decided to step in, and the police were called to perform a welfare check. What they found wasn't just confirmation that all of the complaints to DCS were real, but in actuality, it was much worse. As reported by the Maricopa City Police Department, the children, one of which was 3 years old, looked malnourished with dark rings under their eyes and pale complexions, substantiating the claim that she kept them inside and didn't allow them to have regular sleep or sun exposure. One of the daughters immediately offered up information to the police, saying that she was kept in a closet for days at a time with no food or water, pepper sprayed, forced to have ice baths, and that her head had been forced underwater for periods of time as punishment.
Oh my god, that is literal abuse. That is so dark. Yeah, I don't understand how they called like the social services to the house and they haven't been able to substantiate any of those claims 3 times.
And unfortunately, the harm that Michelle dished out didn't limit itself to being physical. Instead, it was also sexual. A lot of the suffering she inflicted was apparently motivated, or at least directly related to, the kids not performing in the videos exactly how Michelle wanted them to. It is deeply disturbing that all of this was going on while she uploaded almost weekly to YouTube, parading her victims around and blatantly profiting off of their pain on the regular. And surprisingly, it gets even darker. 2 of her sons were in on it, so to speak. Logan and Ryan Hackney were not adopted, and they were promptly charged with failing to report the crimes taking place inside the house once it became clear.
Wait, she adopted those children? I know some people like take in adopted children because they get like money from the government or some shit and they like abuse them. These guys look like criminals. Like, what the fuck?
That there was no way they weren't aware of what was going on. For whatever legal technicality, these 2 had their charges dismissed. But as it turns out, years later, both of them were once again charged with felony sexual misconduct with minors. Although it's unclear if these charges are related to their foster siblings or if they're about unrelated crimes. One piece of information that is available is that one of them, Logan, is alleged to have been in contact with 2 minors under the age of 15 between the years of 2008 and 2013, while the other one, Ryan, was in contact with 1 between 2011 and 2012. If these victims are indeed their siblings, it adds another degree of perversion and evil to this whole story. Michelle, meanwhile, didn't end up serving her full sentence, as she died in November of 2019 at the age of 48.
And tonight, the prosecutor leading the case against Hobson says her death is actually a good thing.
On the surface, family vlogging channels present a glimpse into someone else's world. What could be more wholesome than smiling families, opening presents, and having fun? It's all the more disturbing then when the curtain is peeled back and some of them turn out to be more cruel than any viewer would have ever imagined. But for me, it's not just the bad apples. The entire genre is essentially predicated on robbing kids of their youth and blasting it out to the world for everyone to see their every moment. Have we not learned from how developmentally stunted many child actors turn out to be? I guess the answer is no, we haven't learned. And everything I've talked about in this video will probably be repeated again. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
Dude, that was such a dark video. That was okay. I hate family channels. I feel like they should just be banned. They should just be banned from YouTube. You should not be allowed to film like kids under a certain age because they can't actually consent to it. They don't have like all of the mental capacities to do it. We need more Turkey BWC Tom. No more. No fucking more, man. I can't take it. Hey, you! Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button. And I'll see you in the next video.